I called her and I just said, I need you to be the strongest you've ever been in your entire life for my girls. I need you to hold it together for them. Don't tell them, but thanks passed away, and I'm going to be here delivering them. And I just said, please give them the best day of their lives. Buy them the ice cream, take them to the park. Like that's all I could think about. And then I made the phone call to my father, and my first thing that I said to him was, I'm so sorry. Like I knew, even in as much pain as I was in, that I was about to break his heart too.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristine McNeil, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about Mother Like No Other, a special community for women who are navigating the tender season of life after loss. Inside Mother Like No Other, you'll find a warm, supportive space of moms who truly get it, plus practical tools to help you through the hard days. You'll have access to a private online community where you can connect with me, an experienced doula, and other moms navigating the same journey. Each month, we gather for live workshops to connect and learn, covering topics like supporting your fertility journey, grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and ways to nurture your mind, body, and soul. We also bring in guest speakers to share their expertise and inspiration. The best part? It's only $22 a month. No long-term commitment, just real support when you need it most. If you're ready to feel more grounded, connected, and held through this season, come join us at thedoulalife.ca/mother. You do not have to go through this journey alone. And by joining us inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to. This week, I'm joined by Kristine McNeil, who invites us into the story of her beautiful daughter, Banks, a baby who was wanted, cherished, and loved for every second of her life. Kristine shares the moments her intuition nudged her, the day that her world was split open, and the long stretch of grief that followed as she began to reassemble her life. She also shares what it meant to try again after loss and to hold that fear and that hope in the same breath and to mother a rainbow baby while still fiercely loving the child she lost. She gives us a glimpse into her NICU experience and also into the healing that her rainbow baby brought to her and her family. This is a conversation about love that doesn't disappear even when everything else changes. You're also going to notice there's a lot of synchronicities in this episode, a lot of dates that Kristine and I had in common. And if there's one thing I've learned when talking to hundreds of lost moms now, is that there's no such thing as coincidence. So I feel like this episode was a huge wink from our babies. Okay, enough from me. Now let's hear from Kristine. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined with Kristine. Hi, Kristine. How are you today?
Hi, Kristine.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Kristine today is going to share two stories with us, one of her angel baby and of her rainbow baby. I'm looking forward to hearing more about her journey and getting to know her better. But before we dive in, Kristine, why don't you share with our listeners, a little bit about yourself and your family?
Yeah, so my name's Kristine. I'm 37. I'm currently living in Greenville, South Carolina with my husband, Sean. We have 4 babies. Cadence is 7. Butler is 6. Banks would be 4. She's our angel baby. And Cash, who just turned 3. And we're a big sports family. We love watching football. My girls play sports. We're outside a lot. We love hosting, getting our family together, our friends together.
Sounds like South Carolina to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about your beautiful baby Banks. Why don't we start there?
So going back, my husband and I met in Nashville, Tennessee. I was a country singer there, and he was a captain in the 5th Special Forces group there. And so we met, we dated for a while, we did the deployment. Um, we got married in 2015. We had our first daughter, Keaton, in 2017. We had our daughter, Stetler, in 2019. And that was when we were living in Charleston, South Carolina. And then we had our hands full with those two, and we decided to move closer to family.
Mm.
So we moved to Greenville, where we had some family for some help. And about a year later is when I got pregnant with Banks. And my other two pregnancies were smooth. I mean, your normal hiccups, but nothing crazy out of the ordinary. Deliveries were fine, long. I had big babies.
Mm.
Cadence was 9 pounds, 6 ounces. Sutler was born at 38 weeks, and she was 8 pounds, 9 ounces. Pregnancy was pretty normal. It was right around COVID time. So it was 2020. My husband got COVID right towards the end of our pregnancy, and I was 37 weeks when he first got it. I was supposed to go to my 38-week checkup, and they decided to not have me come in just because my husband had COVID.
Mm.
And so that was a Friday. And this is like a really crazy story, but so I wasn't able to go to the appointment. And then Friday evening, I started to feel like, I don't know how to describe it other than like impending doom.
Mm.
Like this feeling like I was going to die. And I cannot explain it other than that. It was so bad that I had asked my mom to stay the night. And I've never done that in my life.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know why. I feel like if I fall asleep tonight, I will not wake back up. And it was just crazy because I've never ever experienced anything like that before. And the next morning I woke up, my mom was here. My daughter, Cadence, ran into the bedroom, and she would wake up and come talk to Banks into the belly and be like, "Good morning, Banks." And normally Banks would wake up and I could feel her move, and I didn't feel anything. And I was like, well, that's weird, but I didn't like, wasn't like a big panic. But it probably wasn't even another 10 minutes when I got downstairs, started making my girls breakfast, that I just was like, something is wrong. I mean, it took all of 10 minutes. My husband was quarantined in a different bedroom, so I had sent him a text message being like, I have a Doppler at home. So, and I've used it for a long time, so I'm pretty confident in finding her heart and all that.
Mm.
So I had text messaged him and been like, I haven't felt Banks move. I'm going to go check. And sure enough, I put the Doppler on. I searched for probably 20 minutes. And at that point, I was like picking up a heart, and I knew it was my own. I knew where mine was. But at that point, it was so high because I was panicking. It almost could have been hers. It was like 135, 140. And I was like, whoa, either I'm panicking or something's really off.
Mm.
At that point, I knew. And I told my husband she doesn't have a heartbeat. We both kind of just looked at each other like, what do we do? Like,
Did you go into his room at this point just because he was
mhm.
quarantined? Yeah. Ugh.
Yep. I went in and I was like, I don't even know what to do. And so he was like, well, should we take our bag? And I was so sure that I was just like, what's the point? She's not alive anymore.
Mm.
Like I just knew. As I was thinking about it, my mom, she was crying. She was like holding my belly, like, come on, Banks, come on. And there was a little bit of hope on the way to the hospital. Like was really, really honing in on my belly and any movement, and there was
Mm.
just nothing.
Mm.
And at this point, I mean, I'm 38 weeks in a day, and I'm just so familiar with her movements. And
Yeah, you have a big baby in there.
yeah,
Mm.
so I was pretty calm in the car. It was when we got to the hospital, we had to get into the elevator, and I just started to panic.
Mm.
And I was hyperventilating, and there was a guy that just gets you up to the room. He doesn't work for the hospital, like he's not a doctor or anything, but he
Mhm.
was like trying to figure out what was wrong, and I was barely able to breathe. And when they got me off the elevator, a bunch of the nurses came and they were like, "Are you in labor?" And I was like, "No, she's dead. She's dead." And they were like, "Calm down." Like they really were like, "There's no way that you would know that."
Because I'm
And
sure they've seen that happen
mhm,
before, and that wasn't the
mhm.
case, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So of course they're trying to calm me down. They get me in for an ultrasound and triage, and the nurse was looking and looking and looking. And at one point she's like, "Oh," and I knew it was me because I had heard it. It was about 1:35, and I said to her, "That's my heartbeat." And she said, "Well, I'll be right back." And I knew. A very sweet doctor, was a doctor on call, not my normal OB, but a very sweet doctor. He came in and brought the ultrasound machine and looked forever. And he put it down and put his hand on me. And he was like, "I just want to keep looking." That's all he said.
Mm.
And he was like, "I'm so sorry. I just want to keep looking." And at that point, like it was almost like freaking me out more to see her on the screen with no movement. And I was like,
Hmm.
"Please stop." Like,
Were you like, what are you looking for?
right, right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I knew he knew, but he didn't want to have to tell
Mm.
me, I think. Like, he just so
Mm.
badly wanted to see something. But I could see her body in there still. And I was like, "Okay, enough, enough. I know." And then, it's like that moment is like when your world stops.
Mhm.
It's like, this is just not what I envisioned. How can I go forward from here? I don't envision a future because I was always picturing this child with us. And then even just in that moment, like I remember saying to him, "Well, now what?" Like my head couldn't even like process, like, "You have to deliver this baby." Like I was just like, "Wait a minute, what do you do now?" I've never even heard of something like this, you
Yeah.
know? And he was like, "Well, it's really safest if you deliver vaginally." So he was against a C-section, and he was like, "We're gonna induce you, and you're gonna have to deliver her." And
Mm.
and they got me set up in a room all the way in the back. It had like a little butterfly on it so that everybody knew when they were coming in, that we were not going to be delivering a living baby.
Mm.
And the hardest phone calls I ever made were to my parents at that point. So my mom had my daughters.
Well, because she was at your house, right?
She was at my house.
Yeah. She's probably beside herself wondering what's
Right.
going
She was
on.
waiting for a long time. And I think that probably for her, she knew because it had been so long. She knew, like, if I had heard a heartbeat, I would have texted her, like, "Everything's okay."
Mhm.
Um, I called her and I just said, "I need you to be the strongest you've ever been in your entire life for my girls. I need you to hold it together for them. Don't tell them, but thanks passed away, and I'm going to be here delivering them." And I just said, "Please give them the best day of their lives. I don't just do what, buy them the ice cream, take them to the park."
Mhm.
Like that's all I could think about. And then I made the phone call to my father, and my first thing that I said to him was, "I'm so sorry." Like I knew, even in as much pain as I was in, that I was about to break his heart too,
Of
you
course,
know.
it's so much more like, I mean, these people love you. You're his baby, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And they all, and he's remarried. My stepmom, she's wonderful too. She was supposed to be going on a trip, and she was about to get on an airplane, and she turned around, and they all came over to my house to help my mom, and they were just wonderful, taking care of everything back at home, so I didn't have to even think twice about that and could focus on what was ahead of me, which was so heavy.
At this point, like, was your husband able to be with you because he had COVID? So, like, what ended up happening?
Yeah, so fortunately the day that it happened was his last day of quarantine.
Mm.
So they were like not super happy about it, but they were like, "He can come in." He wore a mask the whole time. Yeah, it was weird. And I think like he didn't know how to process it at the time. And he was very quiet. That's what I remember most about it. And that like later on played some, with a little bit hard in our marriage of like he just shut down
Same.
when we were in the hospital. And I think he just didn't even know what to say or do. But neither did I. So it was like I needed my person. So I was like, I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this. But it was like every doctor that came in, whether it was like an anesthesiologist or nurse, I would just asking why, like why is this happening? How could this be happening? I played like at one point every little thing to the nurse, and she was wonderful. The blame game. I said, I did it. I think I was too stressed out. I had taken a Unisom that night because I was so panicked about dying, which is just wild. I don't know if my body just knew something. It wasn't me who was going to die, even though I thought it was. But my body knew that something very bad was going to happen that night. I just was running through the list of the things that I could have done better. Maybe I fell asleep on my side, on the wrong side, on my back, whatever it was. And she's like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play that game. When they were like, do you want an epidural? I was like, no, I don't want an epidural. I want to feel everything. Like I wanted to punish myself. I was so upset with myself, which is hard. And again, she was like, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. This is not your fault. But in your head, you're just thinking, well, I'm completely in charge of keeping this human alive. Like I'm her safety. I'm her life.
I'm in charge of my energy, everything I eat, everything I expose myself to. Like I'm her home. I know it's really hard not to blame yourself because it's true. It's all on you. Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it was about 13 hours of labor. So it was pretty long. And in that time, you have people coming in and asking you questions that you never, ever thought you would have to answer. Like I so badly wanted to be like, why are you asking me these things right now? This is insane. But I know they have to. What funeral home do you want us to call? What would you like to do with her body? Do you want an autopsy? I remember that question. I went into a full panic attack, couldn't stop hyperventilating. I couldn't picture anything happening to my perfect daughter in my head. Like, what do you mean? Like thinking about that process to me was very disturbing. And, after a while, the nurse was like, we're not supposed to have people in, but, we really think it would be beneficial if your mom were here. Because it was really hard to calm me down at that point. And my mom told me later on that when my husband had called and said, listen, they think that you should come and help. My mom was almost like, I don't know that I can, and my mom is my best friend in the entire world. We are so, so close. And she's an extremely strong woman. And to hear that she didn't even know if she could come and be that support that I needed. Because that's how horrible the situation was,
It was horrible.
But she did. She showed up, of course.
Of course she did.
Of course. She was there holding my hand, being my support, answering the questions for the people that I couldn't answer at the time. She took the packet. She helped with the funeral stuff. She was like, I've got this. You focus on getting this baby out. And
she, you had to take care of your baby and she had to take care of hers.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like the true definition of mother, both of us mothering.
Yeah, doing the hard stuff.
Right. And then it was like, again, like that whole thought process of like how I just kept thinking, because I've never envisioned this, that my life without this child, I kept thinking there is no life without this child. So I still had that like impending doom feeling. Like I was thinking, there's no way I make it out of this alive. And I remember saying things about my daughters and like making sure that they're going to be taken care of. And, they know how much I love them. And that was a really heavy part of it too. So I just kept thinking, there's no way you can have, a baby that's not living inside of you and you can make it out alive. I don't know. It's just something that you've never thought you would be in that position. You've never thought about.
No, I remember feeling something so similar. Like the moment I heard that my daughter was gone, I just said to myself, like, there's no way I'm going to survive this. Like there is no life after this because this is unsurvivable. Yeah. So you're not alone in feeling that way.
Yeah. So I think in my head, you have to like prep, like, I'm not going to make it out of this. I don't know what to expect when she's here. That was one of the big questions was, as I was getting closer to delivering her, they were like, do you want to see her? Do you want us to take her away? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know how is she going to look? Does she look like a
Mhm.
baby? I
Mhm.
have never experienced this. I've never seen a baby that's not living or breathing. And so, I said to my mom, listen, if I'm freaking out, maybe just give me a minute to recover and then I'll see her. And if I'm fine, then let me have her.
Mhm.
So let's kind of see what happens. And then, so when it came time to deliver, I remember like it was literally like an internal tug of war. I delivered my other two babies really quick, pushing. I think it
Mhm.
was within 5 minutes. This one was super hard because it was like, one, I was pushing and knew that like she was no longer going to be inside of me. And this was the last that I was going to have of her.
Mhm.
So it was like I would push, but then be like, wait, I don't want to let her go. And two, I don't know what I'm going to see. I was so terrified of what I was going to see. So they
Mhm.
kept saying, push, push. And I was like, I can't. Like, I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid. And then she came out and the world just stopped. I was so calm. I felt so much love. Like, there was no panic. There was no hyperventilating. There was no, which is what I had envisioned. Like, I was going to be freaking out. It was so calm. And my mom like grabbed the blanket, put it on my chest. She's like, put her on her because she knew like she's relaxed. She wants her
Mhm.
baby. And really like the whole room just stopped.
Mhm.
And I felt happy. And I don't know, that might sound weird to people. The- you put your lifeless child on top of you, but I felt joy. It was like I finally had her. And she was warm when she first came out. There did still feel like there was life in her. And I wanted to just take every second of that. And I held her close and it was very peaceful.
Well, birth is still, stillbirth is stillbirth, and especially if you didn't have an epidural, having a vaginal birth, having a vaginated, unmedicated birth, you're still gonna get the biggest oxytocin rush of your life. So that
Mhm.
huge influx of love hormone, and it is your baby. So of course you would feel that way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think just like not, no, I was like, I think I'm going to freak out because I don't know how she's going to
Mhm.
look, but it was just my baby. That's all it was.
Mhm.
She was just
Mhm.
mine. She was perfect. And I kept
Mhm.
saying that. Oh my gosh, she's perfect. She's perfect. I was so calm. That's when my husband lost it. I remember looking over at him and he was sobbing. The nurse had to walk away. She was sobbing. My mom was sobbing. And I was so calm. I felt just, this is my baby. I finally have her. And there were lots of ups and downs after that of feelings. At one point, they were like, all right, we want to clean her up for you. And they took her, and I immediately freaked out. I don't know if I thought maybe they won't bring her back to me or what, but it was a very quick, they weighed her, which she was 9 pounds, 9 ounces. She was a big girl, so chunky, so chubby, just beautiful. But they quickly brought her right back. And then started all the other questions that were like weird to me at the time, but obviously not. But they were like, do you want to have photos taken? Like, we can have a professional photographer come in. And I just thought that's so strange.
Mhm.
Why would I want professional photos? And now I look back and I wish I had. I mean, had asked my mom to take some pictures, and thank goodness I did because there have been so many nights where I just like study every inch of her through these pictures and go back and it's all I have left, So uh, I wish. And then same thing, they wanted if I wanted her hair, and I wish I had done that. I just didn't want a lot of people messing with her was my biggest thing. Like
Totally.
just don't mess with her. Like she's mine,
Mhm.
she's perfect. I wanted to hold on to her as long as I could. At one point, they were like, "You need to sleep. You have got to get some rest." At that point, I had been up for like 15 hours, in labor and delivery, and they were like, "We'll lay you back," and they put her like in my little nook, and literally where like her head was right underneath my nose, so I could just smell her like intoxicating scent. And I put on some music and fell asleep with her, and when I woke back up, I had to use the restroom and I had a nurse put her in the bassinet and she took me to the restroom. And at this point now, it's probably, we had been there for a while. They opened the bathroom door, and the light from the bathroom had kind of like shined on her, and she had changed since I had first delivered her, and she looked really different. And I like had another complete breakdown, and I was like, that doesn't look like her. She doesn't look good. And the nurse had to get me back to bed. And I think that's when my husband and I were like, okay, I think it's time to start saying goodbye. Like, this is not going to be beneficial anymore. It was more like making me panic, like, wait a minute, what's happening to my baby?
Mm-hmm.
Just her look was changing.
And did your hospital, did they have like a cooling cot or a cuddle cot or
They did
anything?
not. No,
Mm.
they did not. And I have thought about trying to get a donation together for that in her name, because I think that would be something really nice for them to have. And then my wonderful nurse, again, I think the hardest thing I've ever done, really, beyond finding out that she had passed, beyond delivering her body, it was leaving her,
Oh, yeah.
um, like walking out of that hospital. And I just remember saying to the nurse, like, please don't just put her in like a dark room by herself. Can you please hold on to her until the
Stay with
funeral
her.
home comes? Yeah. And she said, oh, I'm going to rock her. I'm going to rock her until they come. And I was so thankful for that. Like, and, I start crying and they're pushing me out, and she stops and she's like, do you want to go back? And I said, just go. If you don't just go, I'm
I'll
never going
never
to leave.
leave.
I'll never leave her. And you can't, this is something you can never describe, because I know that, the feeling too of getting in a car and having to drive away. And it's just surreal, like delivering your child and then driving away
And just like
forever.
knowing that you just gave birth, like
Hmm.
my body knows I just gave birth. Like what? I have a squishy belly, like maybe your like pelvic floor is sore. It's like very evident that, you're leaving alone and
Yep.
totally changed.
Yep. And then going home to my two girls.
Yeah. What was that like?
Well, so I walk in the door and I have a deflated belly and my arms are empty. And
Did
they
they
my
know at this point or did they have no
they
idea?
didn't know. I think so I didn't know this until afterwards, but the moment that I had gone into my husband's room and said, Banks doesn't have a heartbeat, my 3-year-old heard that and
Hmm.
gasped and said to my other daughter, Banks doesn't have a heartbeat, which is wild that she even could put those together. She knew
Like what
something
that
was very
means or
right,
yeah.
right. She knew something was very wrong. So we had gifts for them when we walked in. And I basically just said, Banks was born. She is going to be with us in a very different way, but she is always going to be with us. And I explained to them that, she's in heaven, and that she's going to be in everything beautiful, whatever that is, in our love, in butterflies and hummingbirds, anything that you think is beautiful, that is where she is. And they were okay with it, like understanding that. But at that point too, like I was a mess.
Hmm.
I know I made my way up into my bedroom, and I thought I was never going to come back out. That was really hard. Thankfully, my father had, taken away the bassinet that was sitting next to my bed. But we had like our swing out. I mean, we were 38 weeks in a day, so we were expecting her any minute. Everything was perfectly set up. The car seat was in the car, but my father had put it in her nursery so that it wasn't something that was a trigger at that point. It took me a long time to go back into that nursery and pack all that stuff up. That was a whole nother thing. Yeah, that was heavy.
Hmm. Totally. While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. This isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed community program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, an experienced doula and fellow lost mom, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Our winter cohort begins this January, and the waitlist is now open. You can find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/haven. In The Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. What did life look like? I mean, does the dust ever really settle? I'm not sure it ever does, but what did like life look like after that? What did it look like with you and your partner, with you and your girls? How did you cope?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, journaling for me was huge. I wanted to share her so much. I wanted everyone to know about her. I wanted to show pictures of her, which I know for some people that can be hard, but to me, she was just my perfect little girl. Every month, I would write an entry about her and another month without her, what I was going through. For my husband, he internalized. I remember distinctly, I think it was probably the first or second day after we had gotten home. And this was like said exactly how we both were going to grieve and very differently. Our neighbor came over and I was upstairs in my room where I just couldn't get out of bed at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And she had knocked on the door and I heard her and she said, "Did you all just welcome a baby?" And I heard my husband just say, "No." And he closed the door. And my heart broke because, I did just welcome a baby. I just did labor and deliver a baby. But for him, it was just easier to just say no. You know what I mean? Like he
Just like
couldn't
couldn't go
talk.
there.
Right. And that's fair. There are times
Mm-hmm.
when I can't either. When people ask, how many children do you have? And there's the
Mm-hmm.
times that I say three because I'm having a really rough day and things are
Well,
already really heavy.
I'm sure when he opened that door too, he wasn't expecting to be like confronted with that. I don't even, who even knows if he had that question yet, right? To be confronted
Right.
with that, it's like,
Right.
I am not prepared. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And that starts, I think, the process of figuring out how you are going to deal with this
Mm-hmm.
grief. And
Mm-hmm.
I hear sometimes he does say same thing. He'll have moments where he's like, I have four, and he's super open to talking about her and what happened. And there's other days when it's harder, and we have three just because you can't go into the whole thing at that time. But yeah, I love sharing her. My girls are obsessed with their sister. There's pictures of her in their rooms all over our home. They cuddle these pictures. They talk about her all the time, who they think she would be, what she would look like. Every time a butterfly flies by, it's, "Hi, Banks. We love you, Banks." I mean, she is so much a part of it now, of our home, of our lives. I love it. We have gardens with her name and her, like a stone, a remembrance stone. And yeah, I mean, we really do talk about her every single day.
Mm. What did it look like for you guys navigating, even just with the healthcare system afterwards? Did you ever do, I know you were like, and I know you're not alone in feeling this, but the thought of an autopsy is just like, yeah, I can't do that. Did you guys end up doing any investigations?
Yeah, we did. I ended up not getting the autopsy just because I could not, like I said, I just didn't want people messing with her. She
Yeah,
was perfect how she was.
totally get it.
But we ended up, so I came across a woman that had a stillborn son who was sending her placenta to a guy in New York. It was a doctor um, that could look and he was figuring out what had happened.
Is it Dr.
And
Kleiman?
yes, it is.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
that too.
yeah. Um, and I think the final report was that she had cut off her cord. So there was no, I think like she had a hemorrhage from cutting off her cord. And I don't know if it was because she was so big, but that's what he ended up determining what took her.
What did it feel like, finding out that information for you?
Um, Hard. I think I don't know. I think there's always going to be a little bit of blame for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgive myself, like I'm not like super hard on myself, but I do feel blame. And I'm like, I think I laid on my back that night and she was so large. She was 9 pounds, 9 ounces. There wasn't a whole lot of room in there. I don't know. I don't think I'll ever just fully say it was not in my control. It's hard when you're the one who holds that child and
Mm-hmm.
you're responsible for their life.
Totally. And I'm sure you hear it all the time, but it wasn't your fault. Yeah. There's
Oh,
been
no.
big babies so many times in this life. Like, she's not the first big baby, and it really wasn't your fault. And I feel like sometimes when we get results, it could be like an either or kind of thing. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I'm happy that I know this. And then the other side is like, well, I couldn't have done anything about it. So like, am I happy that I know this? Because it just kind of puts, things into perspective of like, we think that we have control over so many things. And sometimes these like horrible things just happen. And,
Right.
Banks didn't deserve that. And it just really makes things not feel like, gives it any sense, right?
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you can't make sense of losing your child ever. It
No,
just doesn't
never.
happen.
Yeah. No matter what the reason is, it never will compute.
Hmm.
I'm curious, Christine, like how obviously you have two girls at home already, and then you lose Banks. I'm wondering how, you were best supported in this time. I know you talked about not being able to get out of bed, which is obviously so common and normal and valid and fair. How did people kind of come around you guys and support you at this time?
Our friends, family, community, my husband's coworkers were phenomenal. I mean, there was food dropped off every day, boxes of food to feed us. And that was one thing, like, I couldn't even imagine getting up and cooking a meal for my family at
No.
that point.
Or eating, right? Like,
Right,
unless it's like
right,
in front of my face and someone's
right.
maybe even putting it in my mouth, like,
And that's what it was for a while.
yeah.
And there was something about like continuing life normal that felt very
Hmm.
wrong.
Hmm.
One of the first big meltdowns I had was at our dinner table, probably like the second night we were sitting there as a family. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't sit at this table with my daughter missing. This is just, we
Hmm.
can't just continue to go forward. Like it, I don't know if it was just too soon, probably, but
Hmm.
that was like a big trigger for me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so just tons of food, a meal train, which was phenomenal. And then I had a friend who is now my best friend. So there was three of us that were pregnant at the same time. Both or all of us were due in 2021. Um, no, we were all due in 2020. Nope,
2021, I think.
2021.
Because I think our girls are the same age.
Oh, really? When was she born?
So Vienna was September 22nd, 2021.
Oh, that's my birthday, September 22nd. That's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But it was like during the height of COVID, but COVID was like kind of dwindling down. And actually, I think you're right. I think you are 2020 because like Vienna's technically Vienna's turning 4 next month. Like her heavenly birthday's 4 next month. So both the girls would be 4, unless, Banks is turning 5 this year.
No, she just turned 4 on August 8th.
Okay.
And so what I was thinking and why I got kind of thrown off was that me and my friends got pregnant in 2020 and we're
Gotcha.
expecting our babies in 2021.
Gotcha.
So there were three of us and we, were doing all the planning like, oh, this is going to be awesome. We're going to dress them up for Halloween together and all that. And my first friend had her daughter. Everything was great. And my second friend, Lauren, she had her son stillborn at 28 weeks. And I remember it was the first I had ever heard of
Oh my
a
gosh.
baby dying. And we're, I'm sitting there pregnant and I just remember feeling guilt. Like, how can my baby be living and hers died? And I remember going to Target and walking past the boys' clothes section and just having a full meltdown, just thinking about her. And
Mhm.
crazy enough, not 2 months later, I lost my
Mm.
daughter.
Oh my
And
God.
she was the first phone call that I made when I got back to the house. I got in bed and I called her and she knew right away, like I was crying and she's like, what happened? And
Oh my God.
I said, Lauren, she died. And she was like, oh my gosh. And she was freaking out and I was crying and I said, just tell me that I'm going to live, like that I'm going to make it. And you're the only person in the world that can tell me this and I'm going to believe you. And she said, you're going to be okay. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but you're going to be okay. And now we're best friends, you know, like there's just something about that bond now that we've had each other to go through it with. And then crazy enough, which I know I'm going to start skipping into the next story. So she was pregnant with a little boy. His name was Giovanni. And I was pregnant with Banks, my little girl. And then they were due a month apart.
Mm.
And after we lost our babies, we both quickly got pregnant again. And we were
Mm.
due, both of us, exactly a year later, a month apart. But she was pregnant with a little girl, and I was pregnant with a little boy.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
And yes, we ended up giving each other clothes. Like she had Banks's clothes to put on her little girl, Gianna, and I had her son's clothes to put on my little boy. And we both have kept like the really important stuff. And
Mm.
we just have this wonderful bond now because we went through that together. And,
Of course you do.
um,
It's a level of understanding that, only a lost mom would ever know, right?
mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really, honestly, as horrible as it is, it sounds really healing and like really
Hmm.
special for you two to have each other. Obviously, we wish things would be so very, very different, but I'm glad you had her. Yeah.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Why don't we talk about that? I would love to hear about your little boy and your journey to your little boy. I know some of us, it's so different for some of us. Some of us we have this like natural, innate urge to get pregnant right away. And some of us feel like we need to take kind of a bit of a breath. What did that feel like for you?
When I got home, my arms felt so empty.
Mm-hmm.
My heart was broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, another baby would never fix that or replace, but there was still an emptiness and like a yearning. My body still was expecting a baby. And I remember I had made some friends pretty much from all over the world, which is kind of cool, that had been through the same thing, that were going through the same thing at the same time. People that I just came across. I remember like the first month just like Googling stillbirth and trying to learn about what happened and how often it happens to people. And then you just come across people, who have gone through it but I've made some really good friends through it. And one in particular that I remember reaching out to and being like, I don't know if you think this is weird, but do you feel the urge to get pregnant again right away? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I remember that just really making me feel better about what I was going through in that thought process. Because I didn't want people to think I was trying to replace her or trying to move on. And there's all that thought process along with it. But it was quick that I was like, I need to fill my arms. And
Mm-hmm.
she agreed 100%. And I was like, I'm just so glad that I have somebody else that can agree with me and feels that. I didn't feel alone in that thought. And then we got pregnant really quick with our son. He has had the same exact due date as Banks, just a year apart, which is
Wow.
actually August 20th, which is today, which
My
is,
God.
yes, we're coming full circle here. Isn't
This
that
is
crazy?
crazy. You want to know something else though, too? My first miscarriage, my baby's due date was August 8th.
That's crazy. We have a lot of similar dates.
So there's two dates that you've said that I'm like, oh, that's the same as me.
Easy.
Yeah, really.
And
Yeah.
then you have September 22nd, which is my birthday. That's crazy. Yeah, so we had the same due date, August 20th, and I went to maternal fetal medicine. Just they wanted to keep a really close eye on me. And I had wonderful, wonderful, wonderful OB. I just loved her so much. She's
Mm,
really the reason I got through it. I remember first going to my 6-week postpartum checkup. Oh, which reminds me that I also had postpartum preeclampsia after
mm,
delivering Banks, which is just awful. I mean, it's awful when you have it with a living baby, but to have to go back and I'm watching all the moms leave with their newborn
mm,
babies, and I had just delivered a stillborn the day before.
mm.
I had to go get the magnesium drip and
Which is
um,
awful in itself. It's so
awful,
uncomfortable. Yeah.
so uncomfortable. And you're listening to all the babies cry around you. And my mom was there by my side and she got me through that. But that's where I met my OB, the new one. So she was just who was on call that day. And she sat there and cried with me. And because I just kept thinking that somebody was going to walk in with her and be like, it was a mistake. Like, here she
Mm-hmm.
is. Because I
Mm-hmm.
had already left and kind of like had a little bit of time and then had to go back and got readmitted. And I just kept thinking that they're going to walk in and be like, we made a mistake. Here she is. And I told her that. And she like cried with me and held me. And I just knew that she was going to be my person, my OB to get me through, a rainbow baby. And she was wonderful. She was like, any time of the day that you need me, you can have as many ultrasounds as you want, like whatever you need. And she's like, you can do this. She got me through it because other than losing your child, to me, pregnancy after loss was the second hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
So hard. You're just thinking, when's the shoe going to drop? When do I get the bad news?
Well,
Um,
especially like going back to how we were saying, like, I'm responsible for this baby. I'm the only one that's like carrying this baby. My body is like keeping this baby alive. And uh, uh, yeah, that hypervigilance in a pregnancy after loss, like there's no avoiding, there's no avoiding it.
mhm, yep. And now you're aware, yeah, that there's nothing you can do really.
Mhm.
If it's going to happen, it's just going to happen.
Mhm.
Which is why, for me, I really wanted to be induced and get him out, especially before we had lost Banks, because I just kept thinking this is what's going to happen. And they
Mhm.
were totally on board with me because I was anxious throughout the pregnancy, but towards the end, getting closer to when I lost Banks was when it was like every day thinking, this is the day, this is the day.
Mhm.
And I know that couldn't have been good for him, with all
Mhm.
the stress. So we ended up inducing at 37. And I remember sitting in the parking lot with my husband being like, this is going to go great. We're leaving here with a baby and just trying to stay super positive. And I delivered him, no problems. Everything went smooth. And they put him on my chest. And I remember just crying and saying to my husband, like, we did it. We did it. He's here. And then it was probably about like 2 minutes, 3 minutes in that I could tell the nurse was like really messing with him a lot. And she's like, come on, come on. And he had this really strange cry,
Mhm.
um, to the point where everyone was commenting on it, almost laughing, like, oh, what a strange sounding cry. And they were like, I'm thinking maybe this has like a little raspy voice, but they were short, raspy cries. And then it became apparent that something was wrong. And
Mhm.
the nurse picked him up and put him over, and he was needing extra support. And then a bunch of people came in, and I remember I just shut down. I was
Mhm.
like staring at the ceiling. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was like, here we go. Like, this is going to be the next worst day of my life.
Yeah, just like mentally preparing, right?
Yep. Like,
Yeah.
here it goes. And they were like, okay, we need to get him out of here. They took my husband with them. So he got to go with him, which I was grateful for. But yeah, I stood there and they were trying to talk to me, and I couldn't even respond to anybody. I'm trying to text my husband, like, how's he doing? And it wasn't great. And then finally, they get me into the recovery room and they tell me that I can go see him. And when I went to see him, he was really struggling to breathe. And they had him on, the highest amount of oxygen that he could have. And we found out that they were not really able to care for a baby as sick as he was,
Mhm.
pretty quickly. And then this was like one of the most terrifying moments of mine and my husband's lives. Um, one of the doctors came to us and they said, listen, he's not doing well. And there's nothing we can do here for him because we're not that level of a NICU that he needs. But the NICU that's close by doesn't have any beds for him. And we
Mhm.
really don't have anywhere to bring him. And well, we're like, well, what does that mean? Like,
You're
we
like,
can't
why
just,
are you telling me this? Like,
right,
figure something out.
right, right. And
Yeah.
it got to the point where we're like, who do we know that owns like a helicopter? Like, we got to get this kid out of here where whatever it means, we're saving my son's life. I don't know
Mhm.
what that looks like, but we're not just going to sit here and watch him suffer, which
Mhm.
we were. Um,
Mhm.
there were nurses like yelling on the phone, you need to get this kid somewhere, someone find a bed. It was traumatizing. He and I were just sobbing over him, sobbing. Like, someone help our son. We were so helpless. And after everything we had been through, it was just
Mm, so
awful,
traumatizing. Yeah.
awful. Eventually, hours passed, and sadly, a baby had passed in the NICU that he needed to go to, and a bed had opened up. And that's like one of those things too, where you're like, that's like just such a crazy way to have to, I don't know, mentally process something. Like a poor
Yeah.
baby just lost their life for my son to have a shot at his.
Mhm.
And we got transferred over, and he had been intubated. He had gotten surfactant. He had gotten the max amount that you can get and was still having a really, really hard time.
Mm.
He ended up being intubated for 4 days.
Okay.
It was a long time. They actually tried to take him off and then had to put him back on. He was on high flow CPAP for a long time, and it ended up being in the NICU for a month, which, I mean, again, we had to leave the hospital empty handed. And that was really, really, really hard. Promising my daughters, like, it's different this time. He is going to come home. I know this is weird to you, but, we tried to be really forward with like what exactly was happening and sharing pictures with them and videos so they could see like he is here, he is fighting, and he is coming home. But that was hard for them too.
Of course it was.
Hmm.
Of course. So did they figure out like what was going on? What was going on?
So he just had extremely premature lungs for a baby at
Okay.
37 weeks. And again, he was a large baby. So he was 8 pounds, 3 ounces, but that's at 37 weeks. So, he
Mm.
probably would have been a good 9 pounder had he gone full term,
Mm-hmm.
full term, 40 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that because his lungs were a little bit underdeveloped at the time, but his body was so big, he was trying to support a
Like
bigger
work
baby,
more.
right?
Yeah,
For a
work
bigger
harder.
baby,
Yeah,
right?
because we had Senna at 37 weeks, and she was only 6 pounds 13 ounces. He was 2 pounds bigger than her.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with these big babies, though? But it worked against him in that circumstance. But he ended up coming out and healthy, and
Mm-hmm.
he's great now. He's amazing.
So he's what, one? How old is he now?
He's 3. He
3. Oh
just
my
turned
gosh.
3.
Okay,
Yeah, because
wow.
he was born
You're
exactly
right.
a year before Banks. So he just turned 3, July 31st, and Banks turned 4 on August 8th.
I'm sure when you went into, I mean, obviously when you're in your pregnancy after loss, like all you really do want is to bring your baby home alive, right? But I'm sure you never envisioned having to go through like another trauma, going through a NICU journey, right? What was that like for you guys? Just like living the NICU life? Were you going there every day? Like,
It was so hard,
mm-hmm,
leaving our girls and trying to figure out that whole part of it. At first, we both wanted to be there, with our
mm-hmm,
son. And we did that, I think, for the first 2 days. Well, I was still in the hospital, and I had a wonderful doctor there too who was like, let me kind of come up with a reason that you have to stay a couple more. So I didn't have to do the back and forth.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so I was able to stay for, I think I was there for 4 days with him.
Okay.
And my husband was going back and forth. And then when we were both out, um, trying to figure that out, we realized that we could spend more time with Cash if I would go for a certain amount of time and then we'd switch.
Mm.
So we had to do Banks's birthday with him fully intubated still, so that day was a bad day for him. And I remember walking in and they had no idea that it was my angel baby's first birthday.
Mm.
And it was heavy. It was heavy in my chest. It was like that knot in your throat where you just can't get a breath. And,
Mm.
they said he had a little setback today and I just lost it. And the nurse was like, he's okay though. And I was like, just tell me, is he going to die? Is he going to die? And she's like, no, no, no. And I said, today is my daughter's first birthday and she passed away. She was a full term stillborn baby. She was like, would you like to hold him? That was the first time I got to hold him after being in the hospital,
On her
which is crazy.
birthday.
On her birthday, and they put
Mm.
him in my arms and he had all the machines, and I just remember like melting but feeling like I could take a breath, like it's going to be okay. And so I'm thankful for that nurse for realizing like we need to give this mommy her son you know
Mm-hmm. Especially today, right? I
hmm
can only imagine like how that would have felt because the first birthday is it's pretty excruciating. It's a really, really big day. It's excruciating, but it's also like again, like all that love. Like there's so much love,
Hmm.
there's so much pain, and being able to hold, your rainbow baby for the first time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can only imagine how many feelings were running through you at that point. That's a huge moment.
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
it was heavy. It was super heavy.
You've been on a journey,
Hmm.
that's for sure. I'm curious, what does life look like for, I know you said your girls talk about their sister all the time. What does life kind of look like for you guys, including Banks into your family and honoring her and her story and her life? What does that look like for you guys?
Well, every day she's here. We
Mm-hmm.
also have a Banksy bear, we call it. So we got a bear that weighs what she weighs. So it's 9 pounds, 10 ounces. And my
Mm-hmm.
girls carry that bear around all the time. Whenever they need a hug from her, they'll hug the bear. We did our memorial garden in the back. And anytime they want to talk to her or have a moment, they can go out there. On her, I think it was her third birthday. Maybe her second birthday. We planted a tree with some of her ashes in it. That
Mm-hmm.
tree brings me so much peace because, in a sense, it's like her taking her first breath, because, the tree is living. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's a very, very special tree to me. It
Mm-hmm.
brings me a lot of comfort. And then every year for her birthday, we celebrate. And this year, really special was having my son, who just turned 3, kind of understand it more. And
Mm-hmm.
there were lots of tears the first time that he said, Happy birthday, Banksy. And I said, Who is Banks? And he said, My sister. And I said, And where is she? And he just pointed up at the sky. And tears, like me, my husband, my mom, like it was like to see him recognizing now that she is a part of our family, who she is. Like I think he's starting to understand it, which is really, really cool. And of course, he loved the blowing out her candle. And we like to just be with nature that day. It just feels
Mm-hmm.
right. But in Greenville, they have the falls downtown. So we go and have brunch and just kind of sit in the breeze, in nature and flowers and anything again that's beautiful to us is where she is. And me and my girls bake an angel food cake every year
Mm-hmm.
for her, and we put wings on the cake, and that's kind of just like our little thing. And we sing happy birthday to her, and it's
I
always
love
very
that.
special.
I
Yeah.
love that. So precious. I would love to hear too if I know we're like kind of jumping back, but I know you said like your pregnancy after loss, with Cash, your beautiful boy, was the hardest thing besides losing Banks that you've ever done. What did you feel was like the most supportive during that time? Like what got you through? What got you to like that finish line of, bringing him into the world?
A lot of it was my OB and
Hmm.
having an open door policy, like whenever you need to
Hmm.
come in and check her
That's a
heart,
game
or
changer.
yes, that was
Hmm.
huge. Um, the mantra of different baby, different pregnancy, different outcome. I
Hmm.
must have said that to myself 200 times that pregnancy.
Hmm.
Having the support of other mamas who had lost babies that were pregnant at the time or had come out the other side with a living baby. Again, like that community for me was so helpful, still is.
Hmm.
Um, it's really crazy the bonds that you can form with complete strangers from around the world. I have friends
Hmm.
in Utah and Texas and Tennessee, just moms that lost babies that we all care about each other and want the best for each other.
Yeah, moms that get
I'm
it, right?
always, yeah, and I'm always rooting for them, watching them welcome more children or just, celebrating any of their joys in life with them. Just strangers, but people that were there for me when, I was having a bad moment and sending them an Instagram message being like, I'm having a really hard day. Did you ever feel like this when you were pregnant? And them being like, yes, I feel that every day. And just
Hmm.
remember this, this, and this, or just, try and stay positive. And um, all of that stuff was so helpful. And then again, having one of my besties, she was pregnant at the time too. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Well, it's a totally different level of understanding, like we said before, right? Like you could go to someone else and say, like, oh, I'm experiencing this. And often you're met with like, oh, it's going to be okay. And you're like, well, how do you know that? Like, you've
Right.
never
How would you
lost a baby
know?
before. So it
Right.
really is just a completely different space and conversation. It's a world of difference having lost moms in your corner and having that, lived experience, shared lived experience. If you could go back and, when you found out you were pregnant again after Banks and give yourself a piece of advice, like what would you say to yourself?
I think I would say to trust yourself more,
Mm,
to trust your body more, that it's going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done in your entire life, but it's going to
mhm,
be so worth it. And
mhm,
I feel that every day that I look at my son,
mhm,
truthfully, truthfully.
mhm,
And then there's that hard internal battle of, likely would Cash be here had Banks not died? Probably not.
mhm,
There's that battle, but you can't change the past.
mhm.
And I am so thankful to have Cash and to have Banks in my heart and have both of those babies that way.
Mhm. I think it's so hard when when you're pal to know like this is going to be the hardest thing you ever do, but it's going to be worth it because you don't know what's going to be worth it really until you
Right.
hit that finish line. So it's like constantly like clinging on to that hope and hoping that it will be worth it. But you're so right. When you get to the other side, I'm doing quotations if anyone is listening in, and you do hold your baby in your arms, you're like, wow, that really was freaking so hard, but like just this moment is just so worth it.
It is the hardest thing
Hmm.
that a mother who has lost a child can do is go through that whole thing again with positivity and with the thought process of like that I am actually gonna get to the
Hmm.
end of this with a baby.
One thing that I've noticed like during our conversations is that your babies, all of them have like such unique and beautiful names. Banks and Cash. I'm wondering if, where you came up with those names, if there's anything special behind those stories, or would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my husband and I both picked names that spoke to us and who we are as a couple. And so our first daughter, Cadence, she's obviously the cadence in the military cadence and for
Mm,
singing, which is kind of what tied us together there.
I
And
love that.
then our daughter Sutler, which she has a very unique name. Um, in Nashville, there was a venue called the Sutler, and
Mm,
it's where people sang, and also was like a word for people, I guess, that like pushed food through in the military. And then Banks. So I always thought I was going to have all boys. And I don't know why. It's just like I'm a boy mom, I'm a sports girl. And then after two girls, so one of our best friends from Nashville, he had deployed right after our wedding and he was killed in Jordan, which was really, really hard on my husband and I. And we knew that we wanted to name one of our daughters after him. We just weren't sure how. And I'll never forget this conversation that we had in the backyard. And he was like, I really want to get Kevin's tattoo tattooed on me. And I was like, well, what was his tattoo of? And he was like, it's the girl with the balloon. And I said, "What's the girl with the balloon?" And he said, "It's a Banksy, who's an artist. It's one of his
mm,
pictures. It's in a little girl who's like reaching for a balloon that has blown away." And when he said it, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's her name,
mm,
Banksy." And he was like, "Wow, I really like that too." And so we picked Banks after that, and then her middle name Jocelyn is after my husband's mother, who sadly passed away too when I was pregnant with her. That all kind of came together. And then Cash was because whenever we would drive into Nashville, there was like this big Johnny Cash sign. And every time we would get there, we'd be like, "Oh, we're home." And it's like so
mm.
true that he's like feels like home to us.
And I was
Um,
wondering if Cash was a, homage to Johnny Cash. Love
yep.
Johnny Cash. I love
Yeah.
that. I love how they all have like their own little unique stories. And, hearing about your husband, I'm like, wow, he has really been through it too. Um,
He's been through a lot.
he's been through it the last few years. And yeah, if
Hmm.
he's listening to this, just want him to send my love out to him too, because yeah, just hearing your story about how life has looked. It's been tough, for sure.
It's been really tough, but we've been strong and our family has so much love. I'm so proud of my
Mhm.
family in that. I mean, we've gotten through some tough things, but so much love. And Banks is a huge, huge part of that.
I can tell. I can definitely tell. Well, I think that is a beautiful place to wrap things up today, Kristine. And just want to thank you for sharing your heart. There was a few times there where, it's almost impossible to not sob your face off, right? It's
Mhm.
you've really been through it, and I just see you, and your story is so powerful, and Banks' story is so powerful, and just want to thank you for you being a part of this collective and having so much vulnerability and authenticity and sharing, because I know that there's going to be another mother, like we talked about so much, like Lost Moms Club. It's the worst club with the best members, but I know there's going to be a lost mom listening to this story and seeing herself in it and having permission to feel some of the things that, you grappled with too. And yeah, just want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing. You're doing amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode touched your heart, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to rate and review The Rainbow Connection. Your words help this podcast reach other mothers who need to hear these stories, the ones still searching for hope, for comfort, and for connection after loss. Every review, every star, every kind word truly makes a difference. Thank you for helping me keep these stories alive. I'll see you in the next episode.